The last contractor was fired from this job because they did everything wrong in here, and now the city wants to take the home back from the homeowner. So we were hired to come in, fix this up, get everybody back on the same page, and make sure the owner can keep this house. The first thing you notice, normally we go in the house. Before you even go in the house, you can see how high this step is. Steps should not be like this. So whoever re-poured this is one step. You can see the difference there. This is another step. I mean, that's off by a huge amount. You can see they messed it up so bad that they had to cut the concrete out to try to fit the railings in on both sides. The first thing before you even got inside was botched. The next thing, they put in these new lights. These are new, but look at this around here. I mean, it's all still open. Animals can get in there. Rain can get in there. This side too. Look at that. I mean, they didn't finish any of that. Another thing a lot of people take for granted before we go inside is that your doors just work. Doors don't necessarily just work. Somebody had to line it up, hang it properly, and everything else. So you can see it's not a whole lot of difference, but if I don't pick this door up when I close it, it doesn't close. Now, if I pick it up, and you can hear it on this end, like grabbing back in, then it closes. So I have to fix that. It's not a big deal. It probably takes like 2 minutes, but it's another thing to add to the list. Now, it's very easy to come in on somebody else's job site after they've been thrown off the job and pick everything apart. So, you know, I try not to pick them apart too bad, but some things are just obvious, right? From the outside, you could see the arches and the brick and how beautiful these windows are. Well, they put about the cheapest little sliders in here that you could. Now, who knows if that was the owner's choice and the owner's budget or the contractor's, but sometimes it's your job as the contractor to be like, look, these are old, beautiful windows. We need to replace them with something right, not just anything. You can see though that basically the whole house has been ripped apart. So if you look here, this used to be a wall. And if you look on this side, this used to be a wall. And so these used to all be separate rooms. They hired a demo crew who came in and demoed the house, easy enough. Then they hired a framing crew, I guess, maybe one guy, I don't really know. And he put this in here to open it up. Now, the problem I have with this immediately on coming in here is he's got this on posts and these things are holding weight. You can see how this one here is bowing already. The point of this here is so that when you open the room up, you don't have to have posts. If these are done correctly with the right size, the right load, everything else, it opens up this whole space so that you don't have post on post on post on post. So instead of having a nice, large, open concept, her room has now been, the owners of her rooms have now been broken up again with these posts. So that was done incorrectly. So she paid for that, and now she's not getting her open concept. When she called the framer at our advice, she said, what's going on? This is supposed to be an open layout. How come I have posts here that are holding weight? These posts are gonna have to stay now, right? And he goes, yeah, they're gonna have to stay. She goes, why didn't you tell me that? He said, well, you know, I talked with my engineer and we'd have to redesign the house and yada, 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 yada. And she's like, well, that's not your decision to make. You don't just get to decide that our open concept is now gonna have posts and not be open concept. But that's what he did, and he's calling it done. That's that. Now, another big mistake that I feel like this owner made is, and this is perfectly fine if you're local, but if you're not local and on top of the job every single day, she hired an electrician for the electrical. She hired an HVAC company for the HVAC. She hired a plumber for the plumbing, you can see there. Now, that's fine if you hire these trades individually, if you're here and willing and able to manage the job. If you can't be here every day to manage the job, the different trades don't really care. The electrician's gonna do what's easy for the electrician, the plumber's gonna do what's easy for the plumber, and the HVAC's gonna do what's easy for the HVAC. I'll show you an example upstairs when we get to it of why that's a bad thing, but let's come in this room here. We talked to the electrician on this job, and we said, why do you have so many lights in here? And at first we thought maybe the electrician was just like upcharging her a lot. And he said, well, she never really gave me a plan. She never really told me what she wanted. She just said she wanted it wired and lights and stuff in the room. So I just did whatever I thought was best, and that's just how it turned out. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Without a plan, you don't know what to do. You just did what you thought was right. I get that. It's overkill on this light for sure. I mean, this bathroom is a relatively small bathroom, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lights in here. I mean, 4 LED lights in a small bathroom like this is gonna be crazy, especially with bright white tile and everything else. So it's a bit of an overkill. Is that okay? Probably. No one told him not to. So he did what he thought he needed to do. But this is where the owner, had they been involved, they would have been able to make these decisions, right? And we don't know that they weren't involved, but I'm guessing they haven't been here. Most of these investors aren't local. That's why we're big fans, not only because it's, you know, our business, but we're big fans of hiring a company like us who manages the electrician, manages the HVAC, manages the plumbing, the framing, the drywall, all that. So we were brought in to bid the drywall. Well, the first thing we said is, did your plumber get his rough? Did he get his rough install inspection and permit passed? Did your electrical get his rough? Did your HVAC get his rough? Nobody knew. Now, the rough means that so far everything's good, in layman's terms, so far everything's good, and we're able to button up the walls. You don't want to button up the walls if they do not have their roughs, because then we're putting drywall over all this, right? What if they got to get back in here to this wiring? Or what if they got to get back in here to this ductwork or to this plumbing? Now it's all hidden behind the wall. So now they're gonna have to demo out the wall as far back as they need to get to the plumbing and electrical. Then somebody's gonna have to put it back in. So we're gonna have to drywall again. You wanna avoid that as much as possible. If you had somebody here managing the project, that would be their job. Would be to make sure everybody did their thing, everybody got their roughs, all the permits are signed off on, and nobody's gonna have to work backwards. Well, in the absence of a true manager for the project, that's not what you got. So, as we head upstairs, you'll see, if you're a drywaller, how are you gonna drywall this, right? Not only do you have the pipe coming out past the wall, but just look at stud to stud, how much of a difference there is on that. You can't bend drywall, you'll break it. So what are you supposed to do here? Separate sheets? Maybe. Are you gonna be able to feather it out, make it look right? Maybe. If you had someone managing the project, they come back and say, hey guys, this shit's not right, it's not gonna work, you need to redo it before the check gets cut. Without a true manager for the project, that's not what happened, right? Now, we did talk to them all. They all say they got their roughs. Now we'll verify. Once they verify, we can fix the framing. But there's a lot of issues here. The first issue here, this is all supposed to be drywalled, right? You can see in the corner, that sits behind the front plate. And then you follow the run down, and by the time you get to here, it's below the front plate. So how are you gonna drywall that, right? This is not a finished wood. This is not wood you would just leave on as trim. You need to drywall that corner. How are you gonna drywall that corner when this comes below the board and that sits on top of the board? You can't etch out the back of your drywall to fit that piece in there. So that's gotta be redone. Then you come, it's the same thing here. You need to drywall, but where's that carrying down to, right? Let me see if I can. Imagine this is your sheet of drywall. I don't know if you can see it. There's a bow in there. Same thing, where is this gonna go? Imagine you continue that drywall down. Where's it gonna go? There's nowhere to end it, because once you get down to here where it ends, there's nothing to nail to. Now, you might go this way, and this corner, maybe you could connect an end here, because it's like somewhat flush, but this, there's nowhere for it to go. And a lot of this is because, so these are 2x4, and you don't use 2x4 anymore, you use 2x6 now, mostly. So what they did was put a furring strip on it to try to build the depth out, but in doing that, you can see the same thing here. How are you gonna drywall that? You see the difference? If you carry this across straight, okay, so one sheet ends here, the other sheet ends here. So what happens in this gap? Let's say you drywall up to here. Well, now what? Now where's your drywall go over here? Are you gonna etch that out and cut that off? All this either needs to be redone or needs to be cut in a whole bunch of weird, crazy ways to try to make it fit right. Right here, I mean, what even is your drywall here? You're gonna drywall to here and then to here because that's, you know, flush enough with this. Okay, so now we've got drywall here, but we can't drywall out like this on an angle. right? Because then what? Where's it carry to? So then these are set in. So you can attach your drywall there, but now you have this gap here, right? You could try to attach there, but that's nothing to get a screw to bite on. So you're just gonna shift, right? A lot of this is just not great. And I could keep going, but the majority of her budget, because she wanted us to finish this whole house, I said, honestly, first, we're just gonna have to get through framing and drywall, because there's a lot to fix here. Now, because of all this, the city has said to the owner, because this is a land bank property, so those of you familiar with the land bank, you could buy a house for $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever dollars. But the deal is with the city, you have to get it back up to snuff, certificate of occupancy or certificate of compliance prior to them coming off the deed or the title. The city technically co-owns this house with the current buyer. Until she gets everything done to get them off the deed or the title, they have the right to take it back. So they said to her, we need proof of permits, we need progress updates, we need proof of work being done. And as you can see, work's been done. The city has access to all the permits. So the city should know they're there if they're there. So that's something, you know, now as the project managers on this, we're gonna have to dig back into. Now, like I was saying, it's not a big deal if you're local and you're here, boots on the ground every day, and you can manage the project, right? That's what project managers do. It would have been a lot easier for her being not around every day if she had a system like Jobber. She could have the electrician put all the invoices, put all the permit photos, put all the pictures of work. She could send a link to the city and say, look, electrical's done, paid for, boom. She could say, look, I've got invoices, I've got pictures, I've got permits, all that stuff lined up from the plumber. Boom, plumbing's done. You could look through, come through, take some pictures of the HVAC and the ductwork. Scheduling even, you could share a schedule with them and say, look, the electrician's gonna be here on the 1st, plumber's on the 7th, HVAC's on the 12th. Here's the follow-up, here's the photos, here's everything. It's a great system. It's a great system for anyone, whether they're managing their own investments or whatnot. It's a great system for somebody in the job managing projects, because everything the owner could do to get these invoices and photos, you as a project manager could do it as well. So if you want to try it out, get a free trial and 20% off a plan, just click the link below. You'll get a good discount for being one of our viewers. But even if you look at, this is a closet here. If you look at this closet, there's no nailers in here to nail to. I mean, you got the same problem here, right? Of what the hell are we drywalling here? How is this ever gonna, I mean, you could go here, but then you've got this, but then you can't go here because then this is exposed, but you can't go here because then your drywall is gonna be like this, right? So like, I don't even know. I really don't even know. And the problem is now, if you start moving framing prior to drywall, the electrician's gonna have to change their stuff. The plumber's gonna have to change their stuff. So, you know, we're a fan, you've seen it on some of our videos, of getting blueprints and architectural drawings when you're doing bigger jobs like this. We usually get them because I can hand them to the framer and say, this is the layout, electrician, plumber, da-da-da. Everyone's gonna make sure everyone lines up, right? But again, without a leader, without a plan, without a manager, whatever you wanna call it, everybody just does what's easiest for them. That's how we got here. So the framer, I don't know for sure if he was let go or if he said he's not coming back. Either way, he's no longer involved. We've talked to the electrician, the plumber, the HVAC. They all have a very consistent story. They all say they all have their roughs. We have no reason not to believe them. They're just trying to do what they do and get paid too. So verify all that with the city. We'll do the work we gotta do. Hopefully we'll get it to drywall. Once we get all the drywall on, then we'll talk about kitchens and baths and finishing it out, getting all the updates over to the city, to the DLBA, getting them their photos and their permits and all that stuff. So we'll put a follow-up video out on this thing eventually once we get all this stuff corrected. If you want to see another land bank property we looked at, you can click right here.